Was Randy limited by his shoulder or knee?
I mean, right now he's just limited, and he's fine. We expect him to be okay. Yeah, I mean, he definitely had a really good game. The last one, he really was able to get a good pass rush, and I think it's just, it's going to take time for any rookie to be able to pick it up and feel good about what he's trying to do with the new system. But we definitely have seen progress, and that's all we can ask for.
How surprised were you that Pete Carroll lost the fans?
I kind of randomly heard that. I mean, I think in the end, for us, it's about just going to win a football game. We know it's going to be a hostile environment, no matter who the quarterback is out there. I think that just the entire organization, I know that they appreciate him, and they know all the games that he's won and all the things that he's done for that community and everybody, and we're proud to have him here at Denver. We're going to rally around him, and, I mean, either way, it's a hostile place, so we're excited for it.
Coach, what's the challenge of game planning week one when you don't have as much intel on stunts or looks that they may throw at you?
That's always the exciting thing. You go out there, you have a feel for what you think you're going to get, but you never really do know, especially in week one. With the new guy in there, and he's going to kind of put his little style on everything, so we have to be ready for anything and everything. That's just kind of part of it. So we have to trust what we're going to do. We have to trust our rules and our progressions. Yeah, I think for any expectation for any rookie, it's a process for them, coming from one system to a new system. The adjustment to the speed for any rookie, it is very difficult, especially in the environment that we're about to go into. So obviously, we always want them to be the best version of themselves, and so we're going to do everything we can to make it so he can contribute consistently.
What's gotten a feel for both Javonte and Melvin? How would you describe their skill sets? Are they complementary? Can they both do sort of everything that you're looking for, and how does that?
Yeah, I think we're in a really good place with those two guys. I mean, you can even throw Boone in there, but both those guys can do so much. They can run inside, outside, gap schemes. They can catch the ball from the backfield. They can both protect, which is huge. So I think that having two guys like that, and then you throw Boone in there, his ability to run. We saw a couple good runs that he had the last game we played, and he did some great things out of the backfield, also catching the ball. So we have three good ones there, and we're excited to give them the ball.
Coach, what's unique about Seattle defensively? Speed on the edge. What's unique about that?
Yeah, I mean, they have 10 and 52. Those two guys, they get after it. They have a young rookie there, too, that'll probably show up some. We're lucky because every day we go against some very fast guys also, guys that are good pass rushers and guys that can hold the point. And that's what this defense does. They do a great job getting those wide nines, making sure they're stressing you on the outside to stress the width of the pocket. And at the same time, they're really good at holding that stout point. So they're a good football team, good defense.
But Metcalf and Lockett, do you look at them in a vacuum, or do you look at them as it relates to them having a new quarterback?
I mean, those guys are dynamic players. I mean, they consistently have made plays down the field. The explosive plays that they show up just day in and day out, each week, you can't deny that. Whoever's going to be throwing them the ball. And for those guys, I have so much respect for them, watching them, going against them, and we have to do our best to contain them. I mean, it's you can't necessarily say you want to shut them completely down because they're really good players, veteran guys that have done it a lot. So we just want to be sure we try to limit those explosives as much as possible.
In your experience, how do coaches and players as well have to avoid overreacting either positively or negatively to what happens in week one?
That is not just for week one. That is every single game. I think that's kind of the special part of being a coach and being out there on the field with them to make sure that you're always keeping their demeanor the same. Whether something great happens, whether something bad happens, it's about staying steady the whole time. You can't get too excited. You can't get too upset because you got to go play another play. So the guys that are usually the best, in my experience, are the ones that can let that last play go. Whatever happens, happens. Let's move on to the next one, correct it, praise it maybe just for a little bit. But then, hey, you never know what's going to happen next. They're going to attack you one way or the other, or we'll attack them.
Especially in Green Bay last year, how much did you see that, and who was responsible for that, for not overreacting after that first loss to the Jags?
To the who?
The Jaguars.
Oh, no, it was the Saints. You're talking about the Saints. We were at the Jaguars, yes. I mean, in the end, you look at this whole league, and there's so many ups and downs. I mean, you're not gonna win every game. I think for us last year, it didn't go our way that first week. It was a bad deal versus the New Orleans Saints. But I think sometimes that's good. You rally the troops, and I think we went on a run there. I think we won a couple games in a row there. So, I mean, you just can't overreact for anything, you know, during a long season. You have to be sure that you're able to correct and make those corrections whether you win or lose. And I think that's what you're always trying to keep, that steady, that same approach, make sure everybody's doing the right thing at the right time.
Especially after not.
Without the preseason, just how are you going to get the guys to transition into the physicality that comes with the game? To start.
Yeah, you know, at practice we always want to preach that physicality. I don't think you can ever simulate anything until you get into a game. And again, it goes back to that risk reward. You know, you look at just across the league, sometimes you don't have a great opener, sometimes you do. I think in the end, those guys, they've played a lot of football. We've got a lot of guys that have played football, so they know they're going to be able to be physical right away. And we have to be great at that. We have to challenge them for that. And there's going to be some ups and downs, but that's part of it.
What do you expect the workload split? What do you expect the workload split to look like in that running back room for week 1?
You know, you can't really say. I think, you know, I've always been a true believer. You always kind of want to roll with the hot hand. You know, one guy gets going, you want to be sure you keep feeding that person. But I think they're going to be great complements to each other. I think that, you know, if both of them are hot, I mean, you got to keep feeding them. And it goes for that with the wide receivers too. If one guy gets going, you got to get him the ball. And as we're saying, you know, if anybody gets hot, you have to continually feed them. So it's going to be different every game, I imagine. You know.
What do you think of the game last night?
Yeah, it was, you know, had it on in the background. It was wild. It was up and down, a lot of turnovers, things like that. And that's a little bit kind of September football. You know, people are working the kinks out. And, you know, I mean, I don't think anybody knew it was going to be kind of like that. But in the end, it's about rebounding for the Rams, and it's about still getting those corrections for the Bills.
Do you know what kinks you think you're going to have to work out?
I don't. That's the fun thing about this game. You never know what's going to happen. I've always learned, though, if you win, coach them really hard. And if you lose, get those corrections and make sure they're in the right mindset to be able to bounce back. And you know, like we always say, it's all about trying to correct yourself and make sure you look at yourself first.
Hey, thank you, Coach.
All right, y'all.
Coach.
Thanks, Coach.
How you guys doing?
All right, what's up, Coach?
Coach,
What does having Jonas, it sounds like he's probably going to play, but what does it mean to have him back? What do you expect his progression?
Yeah, he looks great. It doesn't look like his arm is affected or his elbow is affected, and he's playing fast. He's using his hand, and he's being physical. And so, you know, it's always good to get another good football player back, explosive athlete that knows the game and plays fast. So it's going to be good.
Physically, how ready does Randy look to you after the last couple of weeks?
He looks great. He looks ready to go.
You're in a new shape from your Rams days. You see a lot of concepts that are shockers.
Oh, yeah. It's very similar to what we experienced for those 4 years together and what McVay's using in L.A. And so, yeah, it's a lot of similar, but it's good. We feel like they do a lot of things that are going to challenge us schematically, and but that's the NFL. You know, each week you got to be ready to deal.
You have more maybe on Scott list than the player here, obviously. How do you go about sort of putting that on guys? What is the key to handling those?
Yeah, I just think so much, especially early in the season, is your base fundamentals and you're following your rules and not trying to search for things. It's really got to be more about us and playing our game and not worried about so much the opponent, you know. And obviously we'll factor that in a little bit, but like at the end of the day, it's like, hey, we just got to execute our calls, and we feel like what we do has enough answers for anything that could show up.
Nick obviously finished this season with a good run there with a couple of sacks. What have you maybe seen from him through training camp and the preseason, and what are maybe your expectations?
Yeah, you know, he's continued to grow and get better, and you know, the challenge is always going to be for him to continue to get better in the run game, and he's done a good job as a pass rusher. He's always going to be always going to be his winning edge. But you know, as he continues to develop as a run blocker or a run defender, that's going to make him a better player.
Coach said Josie's kind of day-to-day dealing with a little bit of a calf thing. If he's unable to go in any way, shape, or form, what's your confidence level in guys like Justin Sternat, Alex Singleton?
Very high, very, very high. We feel like we've got a good group of guys that can, you know, more than replace. And, you know, obviously we're going to miss Josie, but, like, you know, that's part of the league. Everybody, all the backups got to be ready to go.
Do you believe in having a specific corner follow a wide receiver around for an entire game, or do you think that needs to be balanced?
I think there's times for that. I think there's times where you just play right and left. There's times where you roll the coverage, you know, do different things. Mm-hmm.
K1 missed some time, but it's been back for a while. What do you like about what he does inside against that slot?
Well, yeah, he does a lot of good things. You know, one, he's going to give you good coverage, man-to-man end zone, and then also, you know, you bring a guy that, in a lot of instances now, with the way the NFL is going, they bring that nickel into the run game, and you feel like you got a guy that's really stout.
Go ahead. Obviously, rosters change around this time of year. You've had Darius for a week or so.
Mm-hmm.
What do you make of his game, and what can he, help you with potentially this year?
Yeah, you know, we like the fact that he's a good athlete. He can play inside, play outside. He's a smart kid. He's picking up the system really well. So far, I've been very pleased.
What was it like watching your former team last night, especially not being there on the sideline with them?
Yeah, you know, you still root for a lot of those guys, and so, you know, you kind of feel for them today. But, you know, they got a good team. They got good players. They got a good staff. So very confident it'll rebound.
Where do you finish your call sheet?
We've got everything on there right now. It's my first time kind of doing one, so I'm still kind of looking at it and working through it. So I guess I'll know more about that process as the weeks come about.
While you're on the field during a game, obviously that's a big portion of a defense coordinator. Being able to see the field, is Coach Capers up in the box relaying information to you in terms of like what they're doing? Yeah,
no, definitely he is. Me and Coach Capers get together in between series and kind of go through it and run down and go through the tendencies, our adjustments and stuff like that. And you know, but at the end of the day, it's communication within the whole staff, all the guys upstairs, all the guys down below, and everybody working through identifying issues from their positions collectively and then working through it together. Well, he's, you know, we talk about, you know, we got to stop the run and have some fun. And, you know, that's what he's done really well. He can play multiple positions inside. He can play the run game. And, you know, from the system that he came from in college, he's, you know, he's very, very, very advanced in terms of being ready to play the techniques and stuff that we want to do.
Do you think they'll test you in the run game a little bit early?
Absolutely. No doubt.
What makes you think that?
Coach Carroll.
Do you think some of the preseason people haven't seen your starters yet, and there was some difficulty against the run early preseason? Do you think all of that factors into it?
No, I don't think so. You know, it's like you said, those guys haven't played, and you know, you hold so much back from the preseason, so I think we'll be fine.
As you go into this game, your first time doing it regular season, do you allow yourself to think about the journey at all, or did you already do that?
Oh, yeah, I think that's always part of it. You're always reflective. And, you know, the other day, Coach Dixon popped in my office, and he just started talking about, you know, because he was the assistant D-line at the Rams last year. I was a secondary coach. And, you know, we were just kind of like reminiscing on that last year, but also kind of thinking about, you know, the opportunity we both have now, you know, and kind of cool to think about, you know, where we've come from, and but more excited about where we're going.
Okay, thanks,
Thanks, guys.
How you doing? I think there's a lot of off-season work and preparation for week one. You know, you had the dry run during the preseason with the communication with myself and Hackett and all the other coaches, the installations throughout the off-season with the players, the understanding of what their strengths are and how to execute and use those guys in certain situations. You know, this is an exciting time for this program, this organization, not only just for the players and the coaches, but everybody, including the fans. So, you know, those guys not having the preseason games, you know, they're jacked up, they're ready to go. Very excited to see it come to life.
Justin, with this being Nate's first time being head coach, your first time offensive coordinator, what's just been the collaboration like for the prep for the game?
It's been an open line of communication, it's been like that since, you know, our first year in Green Bay. There's a lot of collaboration throughout the process of game planning. We're always talking through practice and just kind of seeing where we can make things better. Because if you're not looking at those things, you know, you end up getting stagnant, and you can't do that. So in those situations that pop up, there's a lot of communication. So, and it's not just between us, it's throughout the entire coaching staff. And that's what I appreciate about Hackett and how he handles, you know, developing coaches and under him and let those guys open their wings a little bit.
Do you believe Russell Wilson's as mobile as he's been these past few years?
I believe so. He's done a great job with our defense, and you know, we had a couple times where he had to escape the pocket, and he's done a really good job of eluding tacklers. Obviously, they're going to be yelling out sack, but we'll have to go back to the film and practice and kind of let those guys know in a team meeting they did not touch him. So I think he's still got a little wiggle in him.
Coach, you and Coach Tin Young coached Tyree Cleveland in high school. I'm not sure how many people know that when he was All-American kind of wide receiver. How cool is it to be reunited and to see him make the 53 even with the limited preseason, and what can you expect from him offensive-wise?
I'm really proud of Cleve, just kind of seeing him come up through the ranks. He came in as a sophomore at Westfield High School, and there was a lot of development that had to happen, especially at that age, and just understanding how to balance time and grades and, you know, all the other stuff that happens outside the white lines. And he's really grown up into a great man, not just a ball player, but a man. His confidence level has skyrocketed since I last saw him before we got this job. You know, he didn't used to look you in the eyes. He didn't really talk, so he's got a lot more confidence. And I'm very proud of Cleve because of what we saw on video coming in, just the inconsistencies and how he's really grown in a lot of aspects, understanding where he fits. His hand's gotten a lot better. He's doing a great job of running full speed. And, you know, his special teams is a very valuable situation for him, but he's also growing on the offensive side.
Looking at the back end of the Seahawks secondary, there's guys like Quandre Diggs, Jamal Adams. What type of challenge do those guys present to an offensive game plan and what you guys have to do on Monday?
You got to always account for those guys. You got to know where they are on the field, what their demeanor's like, how far they are off the line of scrimmage, where their eyes are. So there's a lot that goes into that game planning and understanding where they fit in their concept. Obviously, we didn't get to see their ones on the field either in preseason, so it's going to be interesting how it plays out.
Coach, how much are you looking forward to having Javonte and Melvin carry the ball in a game so people will quit asking you for, you know, mostly help for their fantasy teams, I think?
It's so exciting. Fantasy is something new to me. I've heard of it, but I don't know how it works or what happens. But I'm excited to see both those guys on the field and let their play come to life. Each guy has a little bit different variation to them, characteristic to them. Both guys run extremely hard. Both guys study their tail off in the meetings. Very proud of how those guys have come along. I think Coach Tyrone Wheatley has done a great job with those guys, developmental. You know, and they're also becoming leaders within that room itself, you know, with Boone in there. And you know, they've done an unbelievable job this offseason in preparation for Monday.
Leading up to this week, how much have you practiced silent count, or has that pretty much all been this week's preparation?
That is something that we worked in the offseason. That's something that you're preparing for. I know a lot of questions were happening. Why don't you do 7-on-7? Why don't you do 1-on-1s? You know, these are in preparation for games like this. You want to have silent cadence, not be new to them week one in a loud environment. You don't want the offense, you know, doing separate things. They want to be working together, all 11, as much as we can. So these are the advantages we have not doing those 7-on-7s and 1-on-1s. You know, you get to kind of let the system go and kind of let it flow.
In a memorable moment during a Nuggets game, you said to the crowd to expect a lot of points. How you feel about keeping that promise?
I meant it. If you don't believe in your system, you don't believe in your players, then there's a lot of questioning. So I'm excited to see how this offense comes about, you know, thinking back and trying to eat my words. I will never do that. I believe in this team. I believe in this offense and these coaching staff. He's like a utility knife in a sense where he can do a lot of different positions. He's been great in the passing game. He's also done a great job in the run game. Protection was a pleasant surprise, you know, seeing him in Atlanta early on in my career, you know, and where he's come and how he's taken on this role. He's done an unbelievable job as far as stepping up in a lot of different areas. Thanks guys.
More than 22 will make a lot of people happy. If you can get more than 22, that's a lot. Yeah, no shit.
What's up, everybody? Hola.
Coach, how nice is it to go into a game and kind of have an idea of what your special teams units will look like because your personnel has now been pared down?
I mean, I can't even put it into words. You know how stressful preseason is because you have 90 guys out there. You're trying to make sure you have 11 on the field. If we don't have 11 on the field this week, then there's an issue. I mean, everybody knows where they are on the depth chart. Everybody knows the emphasis that they need to be out there. It's actually a breath of fresh air to actually get into the regular season and know the core group of guys and the guys who are backing them up 100%.
Coach, we haven't talked to you since Corliss officially got the job. What did you see and what are you so hopeful about him?
You're saying hopeful, like he hasn't done a good job, which I'm confused about. We take the preseason games into account, and then we also take the off-season, training camp, etc. into account. I told you guys before, we've been charting their kicks since the off-season, right? He has good hang time, 4 9s, 5 0s, etc. I know it didn't necessarily show up every single preseason game, but he also has a strong leg as well. So we think the upside of Corliss and the potential that he has, as well as the job that he's already done, won him the job.
When you have a rookie returner like Montreal going into his first game, tough environment, what's maybe your message to him to maybe calm the nervousness?
It's football, right? He's been doing it his whole life. Nothing has changed, and we really need to ignore the outside noise because there's only going to be 22 people on the field at one particular time, right? So everything's going to happen in between the white lines. That's his main concern, not the crowd, not Russell returning to Seattle, not all the other hoopla that's surrounding the game. It's about him focusing and doing his job to the best of his ability, and that's all we asked him to do.
Do you have to have a conversation with him about the balls in the end zone, depth, not getting too excited, especially in his first NFL game?
You know we do. We're going to be smart with everything we do. Obviously, I'm not going to tell what the depth of it is today because I don't want to give anything away as far as to Seattle who may be watching this. But we will have parameters on when he will return the ball on a kickoff return. Absolutely. Absolutely. I've always been a fan of Tyree. There is no secret about that. Again, he's fast, he's physical, he's everything that embodies a special teams player, everything you're looking for. If you look at Tyree, he's a grown man. He's a grown man, and I've been happy and pleased with what he's put on tape on his way back.
Going into the preseason, there were some areas you talked about, being better on kickoff coverage and things like that and tackling. What's one area you're most looking forward to seeing if they make that transition in the regular season?
Kickoff coverage, 100%. There's no secret about that. Anytime you miss tackles in preseason, and I said this before, anytime you give up a 30-yard return, 29-yard return, that can't happen if we're trying to be the unit or one of the top units in the NFL. And that's what I keep preaching to those guys. We have the guys capable of doing that. Now we got to stop talking about it. We got to actually put it on the field consistently, game in and game out. So that's what I'm looking for. I want to see our guys run. I want our guys to be physical, and I want our guys to make tackles inside the 20. That's what I want.
I know it's a college game, but do you use the Florida State LSU final 3 minutes as a coaching lesson for your guys?
I'm sure everybody's watched that, and it just goes to show how important special teams is, right? We keep saying special teams is important. It's 1/3 of the game. Once you watch those games and you see 2 muffed punts, you see a blocked field goal, that resonates a little bit, right? So my message to the guys is not necessarily, relive those moments, but we're trying to prevent those from happening to us. We can learn from all those experiences. We can learn from the preseason games. We can learn from college games. We can learn a lot from those type of experiences, and hopefully we're not in that situation. We trust Montreal to catch a ball, and I'm not talking anything about LSU or, whomever, but we trust our guys to catch the ball, and our number one goal is to safely give the ball back to the offense. That's what we preach.
How often do you guys practice fake field goals and fake punts? Is it made to that game, or is it touch on it every
Again, we're preparing for everything. That's what I'll say. I don't want to say that it's an every week thing or it's an every other week thing. I think it's per team. If we see something that, all right, well, they're a little shaky on this, we might be able to get a fake field goal or a fake punt or whatever the case may be, then we'll try to execute that in practice. You have to execute it in practice first for the head coach to feel comfortable for him to call it in a game. So we do practice it often. I just not going to get into details about that.
Are you impressed with Brandon McManus's throwing arm?
I'm impressed with how well he kicks the ball, absolutely.
Thanks,
Thank you, guys. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Coach.